Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thank you, Jess and Ray, and thank you for sticking around for the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Rich Walsh shall be joined by Chris Mueller in a matter of moments over at the 93.7 The Fan Cam, and we're taking your phone calls tonight at 412-575-2600. We can talk about the Buccos, but I want to start with the Steelers. The Pirates right now 60 and 67, pretty much out of it, 8 games out of the wild card, so not really the topic of conversation, but maybe Paul Skenes, the way he pitched tonight, we could talk a little bit about that. We're also want to talk a little bit about the Steelers and what they're going to do with the quarterback situation and the starters here for this final preseason game. And I like the fact that the starters are playing, especially on offense. They need to get things buttoned up there, Chris. They need to figure out, they need to get some momentum, I think, heading into the regular season. I like that they're playing.
If it was a classic, like, Pouncey-led line or something with Roethlisberger at quarterback, it would be a no-brainer. No matter how badly they might have played in the preseason prior, you just let them go and they'd be done, but it's not. It's a new offensive coordinator. It's 2 new quarterbacks. It's a lot of new guys on the offensive line, and they looked bad, and I think they need to knock a little bit more rust off. Furthermore, Mike Tomlin, we know this much, Richie, and I know you know this, but we've shortened this preseason schedule here to 3 games, but he still looks at the game like it's the traditional Game 3, which was always the dress rehearsal before the Steelers and Carolina Panthers would lock horns for exhibition hostilities every year. So I suspect he might try to split the baby a little bit, treat the first half like serious business, and then treat the second half. I think he even alluded to it today. There's guys trying to make the roster, give their one final case that they're stating for themselves. I think that happens in the second half. So I think it's going to be a fairly tightened schedule here, but I'm glad, like you are, I think that it's warranted to have the first-teamers playing for a couple series.
Yeah, and I also want to I'm going to pay attention, obviously, like everyone, at the quarterback position. I want to see Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. I still think there is no quarterback competition. There's no, Russell Wilson's number 1, Fields is number 2. But I would love to see, and this is what I'm hoping for this year, I know there might be packages for Justin Fields, but I want an all-out slash like we saw in the 90s. I want Justin Fields to be slash.
I don't really necessarily want that, though. I think that you've got to use it sparingly. I think the reason why you could make a case for saying, well, you need to do it like you are, you want to see it at least, is he's their most gifted offensive player, not named George Pickens, in terms of just sheer athletic ability. But, I've never heard anything about Justin Fields knowing how to run routes. Cordell Stewart, to Cordell's immense credit, actually had a feel for route running, really worked at wide receiver and got pretty good at it, and probably, had he stuck with it, would have been an all-pro wide receiver eventually. There's nothing on the ledger like that for Fields. He is a running back when he gets into the open field. I think that kind of limits, people say, gadget plays. It's really just run-heavy packages or things where maybe there's some specially designed pass plays that he's really comfortable with. But I don't really – the more I think about it, Richie, I guess it's tempting to kind of go the direction you went with this. But I don't really think there's slash potential there. I just think it's this guy's a bulldozer of a running quarterback. You hope you can integrate that somehow.
You can kind of teach him that. Remember, this town went crazy when Cordell was slash. I think he would have been better off being slash. I know he made a ton of money being a quarterback and had an opportunity doing that, but when he was slash, I felt like he was a much bigger deal than when he was a quarterback.
He was a Pro Bowler twice and had him in 2 AFC title games as a quarterback, so I'm not going to go that far at all. But
his popularity, the town was in frenzy. He helped them get to the Super Bowl as slash. It was Cordell versus Dion.
Popularity. Sure, if you're talking popularity, that's fine, because once the quarterback is the man in town, he's either public enemy number 1 when things are bad or largely pretty popular when things are going well. But I think what you're really speaking to here, even if it's unconsciously, is the relative lack of weapons they have outside of George Pickens and, let's say, Jalen Warren. If you want to take it in that direction, I'm all ears. That's why people are probably pining for Justin Fields, the ones who are pining for him. I'm with you. I don't think there's any controversy whatsoever. I think nationally, it's his agent floating this idea, Fields' agent, that he might get the job still. I don't think there's a controversy, but the people that do want to see him, I think, want to, Richie, because they observe what kind of all of us have, a relative lack of explosive offensive options for this team. And if Russell Wilson's the quarterback, which he will be, there won't be explosion from the quarterback position. There won't be the threat of a 70-yard run. So people are wondering, where's the steady offense going to come from with a relative lack of playmakers?
All right, 412-575-2600 is the number. We're taking your phone calls. Coming up next. Stay right there. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. This is our GMC tweet of the night from Major League Baseball. Paul Skenes lowers ERA to 2.16. That's the lowest for any MLB pitcher since his debut on May 11th. All right, Chris, keep it with that theme. Paul Skenes was pretty good here tonight. Really good. 6 innings, 6 scoreless innings, only giving up 2 hits, 9 strikeouts. Looked like that dominant pitcher he was. Maybe before the All-Star break, you would say, or kind of right after it. The last 3 games, he's been kind of iffy. He hit 100 here. I saw he hit some wicked pitches in those strikeouts, and we had a series of them. You know, I feel like he finally got run support. Everything kind of came together for him here today. The problem is the Pirates are so far out of it right now, which is unbelievable that they just fell off a cliff the last few weeks.
I mean, I think he's had maybe 2 iffy starts. Otherwise, I think he's been pretty much nails all season after maybe his first start, which I wouldn't count. It was just kind of all over the place. The thing with Skenes is the Pirates are now between a rock and a hard place. If he finishes top 2 in the NL Rookie of the Year, which if they don't shut him down seems like a near lock, then they're going to lose a year of service time on him. They did not bring him up at the start of the season as a consensus top 100 prospect. If he had started the season with the team, if they hadn't waited a couple of months, they would at bare minimum, if he got top 2 billing in the Rookie of the Year, they would get a compensatory draft pick in the low 30s. That would kind of sweeten that a little bit for them. And it's supposed to incentivize teams to bring guys up early, and it's supposed to help the players out. The Pirates are in a position now, Richie, where they're going to get neither one of those things. And I do think yet they have an obligation to still try to stretch him out to make sure that whatever their projected innings for him is next year, 190 plus, they get him to a level this year where they're comfortable making that jump from year 1 to year 2. So they are in a weird spot with him. And they'd better hope that you know what I would do if I were the Pirates? I would be, and I hope they are, I would be trying to talk to Paul Skenes behind the scenes. I'll believe something like this is actually going to happen when I see it happen. I'd be offering him more money by far than they have ever offered any player to try to get him to buy out a year or 2 of free agency. It would take in excess of $200 million, but I would be floating numbers like that out there right now to him to try to get him beyond his age 27 season.
Yeah, I wanted to do that before the All-Star game. I think we talked about it. But what would you do with his situation right now? If you're the GM, if you're Derek Shelton, do you just shut him down and say, all right, well, we don't want you to finish second in the Rookie of the Year. You're already getting an extra day's rest. We're trying to be careful of you right now. His velocity's down too, so obviously there is some kind of fatigue a little bit.
He was averaging 98.6 on the fastball tonight. That's still very high velocity. I know he hasn't thrown as many triple-digit pitches, but the velocity's largely been there. Richie, they would get killed. They would get killed by the Players Association, by a lot of people here.
They get killed all the time, though. They're a business, right? That's how they operate.
It's different than getting killed when you're getting killed by your fans because they're frustrated versus the Players Association saying, what are you doing here? You're shutting this guy down for blatant reasons. Like the Baseball Writers Association of America then becomes compromised. It gets very messy very quick. You ask what I would do if I were the GM, I'd make sure he gets to at least 155, 160 innings this year. And then if you want to pull the plug on 1 start at the end of the year, maybe 2, fine. But you've got to get him to a point where you're comfortable with the innings jump from this year to next year when he's going to pitch the entire season with the big club.
I think they have an excuse here. We want him long term. We're out of it. We want to save his arm. We don't want him throwing 100+ miles an hour anymore. I get it. I see both sides of it. I want to see him here for the extra year, and maybe that's why I'm thinking this way, because it's really they're out of it this year with 35 games. All right, let's go out to JB and Shady Side. How you doing, JB?
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. Thanks for calling.
Good. Yeah, I want to talk about Sherrington. I really feel like he doesn't understand fundamentally, you trade a guy at peak value. Like, what he did with, like, Priester, the guy is at the bottom of his value, and he's stealing the guy. Last year, he could have traded Bednar at peak value and actually gotten a really good return. If you don't understand this basic principle, you're going to be horrible. And that's what they are.
JB, I get what you're saying, and look, I hate to see them trade Bednar. I get what you're saying, though. I think a lot of the reason they should have done it, but I think a big part is he's a Pittsburgh guy. They want to be able to market that. I know. If he was from Idaho, they might have traded him. But the fact is, he's from Mars. I think it plays into.
They traded Neil Walker. They traded Neil Walker.
But they traded him after his prime almost. Right?
Okay, but like a guy being from here and marketing a guy shouldn't matter. You should be trying to put the best team on the field. You want to sell tickets? Don't have a closer from Mars. Have a team that just wins a lot of baseball games. If you build it, i.e. a good baseball team, they will show up. It's happened. San Diego built a pretty good baseball team. They sell out day games there. The caller is exactly right. They 100%, and I can say this now because I said it then, they should have traded David Bednar last year when he was having a lights-out year, when the team was going nowhere, when he was totally superfluous to what they were actually doing and unnecessary. They should have traded him. They didn't. And now they are absolutely left holding a little bit of a bag because David Bednar is not that special stuff-wise when half the major leagues is throwing over 100 miles an hour.
All right, let's go out to Chuck in Uniontown. How you doing, Chuck? Chuck, you there? All right, let's go out to Jim out in Peters Township. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing great. I watched the full game. Shelton told MLB Network they're not shutting them down. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, we know that. I was throwing that out there, just hypothetically speaking. I know they said they weren't shutting them down, but what we're talking. This is a talk show, so we're saying, what would you do if you were the GM? Then that's basically, I understand you wanted to correct me. There was nothing to correct because I didn't say that they were planning on it. I know they've been planning on keeping him pitching for the rest of the year, but potentially I would shut him down in this situation. At some point, maybe in, I don't know, a couple more starts.
I mean, here's another theory. If they really are trying to butter him up because they think as a non-Scott Boras client, he might actually sign an extension here that buys out a year, maybe even 2 years of free agency, then let the guy keep pitching if he wants to keep pitching and let him actually maybe win Rookie of the Year. And one of those small acts that might actually ingratiate you to the pitcher and make him more likely to sit down at the bargaining table and be willing to take a deal that pays him a lot of money but probably is still something of a discount. If I were the Pirates, I would be considering all of these angles because he is quite literally the best player to come through here, it appears, since Barry Bonds, pitcher or hitter, the most impactful guy, better than McCutchen, it looks like, better than all these other guys they've had. You've got to try to take extraordinary means and measures to keep him in a Pirates uniform for as long as humanly possible.
You know, I think it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to get 1 or 2 in Rookie of the Year voting, no matter what. Even if they shut him down next week, I still think he finishes second.
I mean, okay, so hold on. If you actually do think that he finishes second no matter when they shut him down.
I do, don't you?
Then, I mean, if they shut him down right now, Jackson Merrill's going to win it, and Imanaga could come in second. So, like, if you don't think that you change this outcome any way, shape, or form by shutting him down or letting him pitch, then there's really nothing to discuss here because the die is already cast in that particular case. And then you actually really should probably be doing what I'm advocating, which is building up his innings count in a healthy way for next year. If you actually think shutting him down can keep him out of the top 2 of the Rookie of the Year, and that year of service time is still dangling out there in your mind, then if you're the Pirates and you want to be ruthless and you want to keep the player for as long as possible without signing an extension that renders this null and void, then you probably do shut him down.
No, they have been ruthless. Remember what they did to Garrett Cole, didn't give him $25,000. I think, what was that, back in like 2015 or whatever, that $25,000 raise, and they didn't give it to him. All right, let's go out to Fred in North Huntington. How you doing, Fred?
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yep.
Hey, the Steelers, you know, during the offseason, they flipped their quarterback room upside down. They got rid of all 3 quarterbacks. Now they bring in 3 more quarterbacks. I mean, do you really think that the 3 guys that are on the roster right now is a quarterback that's going to be here for the next 7, 8, 10 years that you can rely on? I definitely don't think so. At what point do they sit there and say, they made a mistake with Pickett, drafting him number 1, and they're going to have to draft a guy eventually next year or the year after with another high draft pick?
Well, yeah, they definitely have a dilemma on their hands, but I do think if there's any one of these quarterbacks that could potentially be here for, 5, 6, 7 years, the only one would be Justin Fields. If there is
they
one
already admitted too that drafting Kenny Pickett was a mistake because they traded him when they actually had an opportunity to do so. Fields, by age and by relative draft pedigree, is the only guy, like you said, who has a chance. I am hardly bullish on him. I understand that Justin Fields is an electrifying runner. I understand that Justin Fields does throw a very pretty deep ball. I understand that many of his Bears teammates, including his best receiver last year, lobbied hard for him to remain the quarterback. He's an extremely likable guy. He's great in the locker room. Teammates like him. I do not see anything there that adds up, though, to a long-term, highly effective NFL quarterback. I don't. I wish I did, but I don't.
Can he learn from Russell Wilson, maybe sitting out a year and just watching?
His biggest problem is that he holds on to the ball too long and apparently is not processing what he's seeing fast enough to make the right decisions. Guess who's the only other guy in the league that really holds the ball as long as Fields? Ding, ding, ding. His name is Russell Wilson.
I definitely think you need a Justin Fields type person in this offense right now because you got to escape. You got to be able to run out of danger. And it feels like, to me, just watching these last couple preseason games, that Russell Wilson's going to take too many sacks this year. All right, we got to take a break. Back with more of your phone calls, maybe, and to wrap things up coming up next. Stay right there.